Beardo Benjo.
At this point, it's pretty much tradition that everything Ubisoft decide to make is leaked far ahead of time. I can't remember the last time they had a game that was announced when they intended it to be announced. Everything is always leaked when it comes to Ubisoft. And this is no exception. Far Cry 6 has just leaked courtesy of the PlayStation Store. Now I'm pretty sure anyway, that I knew this one was coming. I'm pretty sure most people knew this one was coming. It had been rumoured for a little while and it's a staple in Ubisoft's back catalogue. They're always going to make new Far Cry games. So far there's no trailer leak. The trailer hopefully will remain intact for Sunday. The reason I say that, as much as I'd like to see a trailer today, is because some Assassin's Creed Valhalla gameplay leaked this week. About 30 minutes of it, and it was really, really rough. It was low quality, it got pulled off the internet pretty quick, it was kind of framey, there was glitches and stuff within the gameplay that were being shown, and I don't think that's the best way to be shown a game for the first time. I'd like to see the version that the developer and the publisher wanted to show. I don't want to see some grainy 420p video that isn't going to do the game justice. I don't think it's fair, and it does have an impact on the game overall. Now I know a lot of people are a little bit tired of Far Cry. I'm not one of them people. A lot of friends of mine say, why do you buy them year in, year out? Because I buy all of them. They are my guilty pleasure games. And I buy them because I enjoy them, even though they are quite samey. Go to this place, climb this tower, activate it. Now you can see the items on the map, go collect the items, go to another tower. That gameplay loop hasn't changed for a few years, but I do still enjoy the games. The gunplay is fun, the worlds are usually kind of really interesting to explore. It has an engaging enough loop to kind of keep me interested until the end. The main reason people keep coming back to Far Cry though is because of its villains. Ever since they released Far Cry 3 and introduced Vaas, kind of Ubisoft changed the way they approach the Far Cry games, and instead of focusing too much on the world building, they kind of focused on making just an engaging and interesting villain, and they've tried to replicate that ever since Far Cry 3. We had Pagan Min, who was pretty good. He wasn't quite to Vaas standard, but he was pretty good. We had Joseph Seed, who I really thought was a pretty good contender for the next best villain in Far Cry. Now Far Cry 6 is no exception. It continues this trend and gives us this gentleman right here, who is the new main villain of the game. His name is Anton Castillo, and he's played by Giancarlo Esposito. Most people, me personally, will probably know him as Gustavo Fring from Breaking Bad. I am incredibly excited with his inclusion in this project. He was stunning in Breaking Bad. He just dominated every single scene he was in. One of the most menacing, calculating, cold, horrific villains I've ever seen in any medium, but he did it all with a smile, and he did it all with kind of a measured quietness that was terrifying. And I think he lends himself perfectly to a Far Cry game. I'm really excited to see what they do with him as an actor, because I think he could be incredible, incredibly menacing, and just would eat up the scenery in that entire game. I don't think you'd be able to take your eyes off him, because he is an incredible actor. He is in The Mandalorian as well, which I haven't watched yet. And he has a career spanning a huge amount of films and TV shows, but what most people, I certainly know him best for, is his turn as Gustavo Fring, and he was incredible. And I imagine they're probably going to use that as a little bit of a jumping off point for this particular villain. Now, as I said, the leak comes courtesy of the PlayStation Store, which listed the game a little bit too early. Now, we don't know a huge amount outside of this image. So we've got this image here of Anton Castillo and his son. I believe that's his son, Diego. Now, in the game, you play as neither of these characters. These are kind of the villains that are pushing the story forward. You play as Danny Roas, a local Yaran, and become a guerrilla fighter to liberate the nation. Now, that sounds exactly like the plot of almost every Far Cry game at this point. You tend to become some kind of guerrilla fighter. You fight back against the oppression of a government that's trying to overrun your homeland. You run around shooting things, and you kill animals, and you liberate things. It's very simple. It's very kind of rinse and repeat the storylines, but as I say, the gunplay's fun, and I do really enjoy these games. I'll always play them. They're very escapist for me. Now, all we've really got so far from the leak is the description that was released on the PlayStation Store. Now, I've got that up on the screen here, but I will just read it to you. Welcome to Yara. That's the name of the new tropical island. A tropical paradise frozen in time. As the dictator of Yara, Anton Castillo is intent on restoring his nation back to its former glory by any means. With his son Diego following in his bloody footsteps, their ruthless oppression has ignited a revolution. As I say, that doesn't sound particularly particularly unique when it comes to Far Cry. It does sound very similar to the storylines we've had in Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4, not so much Far Cry 5 because obviously they went the cult route, but it does sound very similar to 3, 4, even 2 and even 1, kind of overthrowing a regime on a tropical paradise island. It is the Far Cry mold. It is the exact cut and paste mold that they use for their games. But again, I'm not fussed by that because I do enjoy these games. So fight for freedom, play as Danny Roas, a local Yaran, and become a guerrilla fighter to liberate the nation. So you play as a local again, someone that's born and bred on Yara, and you're fighting to take back your own kind of homeland. Again, a very tried and true Far Cry trope. Yara torn apart. Fight against Anton's troops in the largest Far Cry playground to date across jungles, beaches, and Esperanza, the capital city of Yara. Now, all that sounds, again, fairly straightforward for Far Cry. The only thing there that kind of gets me a bit excited is the capital city part. Now, typically in the Far Cry games, you have the strongholds, which tend to be kind of like little castles or little kind of villages, but they're not a sprawling city. I really hope Esperanza is a proper city that we get to explore, because that would change up the gameplay completely. We've seen jungles, we've seen beaches, we've seen kind of mountainous regions, but a proper city that you can run around in Far Cry would be really, really cool. We had the kind of small towns in Far Cry 5. Yeah, in Far Cry 3, again, we just had little villages. We haven't had a city. So the fact that it says the capital city of Yara, that could be cool. A new location that isn't going to feel like everything that Far Cry's done before would be much appreciated at this point. Guerrilla firepower. Employ makeshift weapons, vehicles, and amigos, the new fangs for hire, to burn the tyrannical regime to the ground. Now again, it sounds like they're recycling things they used in the previous games. Makeshift weapons, yeah, you've been able to kind of edit and modify weapons for a while. Vehicles, yeah, they've been in all the games. And amigos take place of the fangs for hire, it sounds like. Unless amigos and fangs for hire are two separate things. Depends how you read that, I guess. And amigos, the new fangs for hire, to burn that. Yeah, so amigos are the new fangs for hire. I'm assuming here then that the fangs for hire will give us kind of animals that we have access to, a little bit like Far Cry 5. It's very typical of Ubisoft to introduce a new feature in one of their games and carry that forward across all the games that they make. It's very rare that they introduce something and then strip it away. So if you look at Far Cry 5 and everything they did in that and New Dawn, I can pretty much assure you that it will be that exact same set of things in this new Far Cry 6, but they'll add a little bit to it. They tend to add a bit every time, but they very rarely take things away. So it does sound, from everything we're seeing there, very, very similar to the rest of the Far Cry games. And I wasn't expecting anything else. You know what you get if you're a Far Cry fan. You know what you're buying into. They are very similar each time they do it, but they are enjoyable. Now, there's a few little bits of information here that we can dig into. There is offline single player, but of course, they're traditionally story-driven single-player games. And it does say online multiplayer 2 players, so I'm assuming there's a co-op mode. Whether you can play the campaign co-op, like you have been able to in the previous Far Cry games, or it's a separate mode, I'm not sure, but there is some form of online multiplayer that's being touted there on the PlayStation Store. And the last things really to look at here is the release date. Now, it does say it's coming out on the 18th of February 2021. Now that makes sense. I imagine they've got Assassin's Creed for the back end of this year. We still don't know when Watch Dogs Legion is going to release. I would like to hope it's this year, but I'm iffy, I'm unsure. And then to have Far Cry launch next year, I imagine we'll probably get Assassin's Creed this year, nearer to Christmas, and then we'll get Far Cry, and then we'll probably get Watch Dogs after that. It would make sense for them to spread out those 3 massive releases, and we haven't heard a huge amount about Watch Dogs, so I can't see it coming out this year. But that's great, it's not too far away, and I imagine based on that release date, it will also be available for PS5 and Xbox Series Next. I can only assume, I don't know why it wouldn't be, considering it would be launching at the point in time when them consoles are out, they're in the wild, they're in people's houses. I imagine we're going to get the new consoles versions as well. So yeah, that's all the information we have so far. I expect we will get a trailer this coming Sunday. I will watch the trailer, I will break the trailer down, I will react to the trailer. I am a big fan of the Far Cry games, so I will happily sit and watch that and kind of digest it. At the moment, I'm excited mainly because it's got Giancarlo Esposito in it. I was always going to buy a new Far Cry game because I enjoy them, but the thing that's kind of got me thinking, oh, this could be really, really cool, is him. He's a fantastic actor. I loved him in Breaking Bad. I loved him in Better Call Saul. I'm excited to see what he can do in a Far Cry role, because they do villains really, really well. They are a little bit cartoonish, but Vass was fantastic. I really did like Joseph Seed. Pagan Min at points was fantastic, but kind of couldn't quite live up to the high bar that was set by Vass in the previous game. I'm very excited to see what they do with Anton Castillo and Giancarlo Esposito playing him. What do you all think? Are you excited for this? Are you tired of Far Cry? Would you prefer they went a completely different direction? It does sound like they're doing something very similar to what they've already done. I'm sure there are people out there that would have wanted them to do something a lot more outlandish and really change up the formula, but it sounds like they are doing something very, very similar to what they've already done. I'll buy it. I always do. I buy them all. I'm addicted to the Far Cry games. I think they're very fun, and I will be watching the trailer on Sunday, and I will be breaking it down when they release that, because I'm sure they will release one on Sunday. This seems like it was queued up and ready to go then, but poor old Ubisoft, everything they do leaks. It is just tradition at this point. Hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. I'll catch you very, very soon for another one. This was just a very brief kind of overview of what we found out so far about Far Cry 6. I will be looking at the event on Sunday when Ubisoft release it all for real. I'm excited. What do you think? Leave me a comment. I'll see you very soon for another one. Take care of yourselves, guys. See you later.